Hello everyone, and welcome to Anime Octopus. Today's topic is an intriguing crossover concept: what if Naruko found a family in Mystic Falls? Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's get started and explore this fascinating what-if scenario. The eternal promise of Naruko Uzumaki. It has been 8,985 years since the great promise was made, yet I remember it as clearly as if it happened yesterday. Back then, I was a rather unusual teenager, already blessed with extraordinary skills and carrying within me the spirit of a powerful guardian beast. At 16, I had already achieved more than I ever dreamed. I had rescued royalty, protected nations, and brought hope to those in despair. Within the Hidden Leaf Village, Konohagakure, I had become one of its strongest defenders, though mostly out of necessity rather than ambition. The world at that time was unsettled, with many great nations standing together to defend peace from a powerful organization known as Akatsuki, led by Uchiha Obito. The Akatsuki sought to control an ancient divine being known as the Shinju, the Tree of Life. Though its revival was incomplete, the chaos it caused changed the world forever. Even with my training in sage techniques and the strength granted to me by Kurama, my guardian spirit, I was humbled by the immense power of Uchiha Madara, a warrior unlike any other. During that great conflict, I reached the edge of my strength, and it was then that I encountered the Shinju itself. Through an unspoken bond, we came to understand one another, and a sacred agreement was made. The Shinju would spare humankind and allow life to continue in peace. In return, I and the others who had once carried the guardian beasts within us would become its eternal protectors, guiding the world's balance from the shadows. From that day onward, humanity gradually lost the ability to wield chakra for combat. Instead, it remained within them only as the quiet energy of life. Time moved forward. The conflict ended, and the world slowly rebuilt itself. When peace finally returned, I was chosen as the 6th Hokage, leader of my village. I married Hinata Hyuga, my closest companion, and together we built a loving family. The years passed gently, and when our time came, we drifted into eternal rest, side by side, as promised. Yet, our journey did not end there. We awoke in a serene realm, the home of the Shinju itself, a place hidden beyond the reach of mortal sight. The Shinju revealed that our promise had transformed us. No longer merely human, we had become beings of balance, guardians who could move freely between worlds. Many of my friends chose to explore the realms beyond, but Hinata and I found peace watching over our loved ones and the generations that followed. Still, my curious spirit eventually led me back into the living world. Across the ages, I witnessed the rise of new civilizations, new dreams, and new ways of life. The art of chakra faded into legend, and the tales of the shinobi became stories told to children beneath the stars. Even so, I, Naruko Uzumaki, the once spirited girl who dreamed of becoming Hokage, still watch over the world I love. The promise remains, and so does my hope, that kindness, courage, and the will to protect others will never be forgotten. In the year 1838 I met a woman named Mary. At that time I was posing as an orphan, a 5-year-old child whose parents had perished. Mary's kindness created an immediate bond between us. She invited me into her home and, together with her husband Giuseppe Salvatore, they adopted me. From that moment I became Naruko Salvatore. Their other child, Damon, and I connected instantly, and 3 years later another sibling, Stefan, joined the family. Mary was gentle, compassionate, and nurturing, though physically delicate. Giuseppe, by contrast, was harsh and domineering. In my 20s I left under the pretense of traveling. In truth I intended to reconnect with Hinata and other relatives, and to visit acquaintances I had made along the way. On my return I discovered that Damon and Stefan had vanished under troubling circumstances, and that Giuseppe was implicated in their disappearance. I did not linger for explanations. My concern for my siblings propelled me into action. I confronted Giuseppe and brought the matter to light. Authorities and community leaders intervened so the situation could be resolved without further harm. Shortly thereafter I was contacted by a trusted confidant, a wise woman named Emily. She informed me that Damon and Stefan had entered a profound and mysterious transformation and were adjusting to a new way of existing. Relieved to hear they were safe, I attended to other pressing matters and later reunited with them. After revealing the truth of my origins to them, our lives followed separate paths. The two of them were seldom seen together except on rare occasions. I returned to the spiritual realm for a period to spend time with Hinata, remaining reachable should I be needed. In 1987 I came back to pay my respects at Mary's grave. At that time I was using the name Minato Namikaze as an homage to my father. I stayed for a few years and then departed again. Now, in 2009, I have come back to a small town that calls to me, Mystic Falls, Virginia. From the Journal of Namikaze Naruko. I shouldn't have come home. I know the risk, but I have to know her, thought a young, pale-skinned figure before leaping from the roof of a large house and landing with practiced grace. Elsewhere, a young woman was following a morning ritual she had kept for as long as she could remember. Her name was Elena Gilbert. At 17 she possessed an oval face, a light olive complexion, warm brown eyes, and long, straight dark brown hair. She stood about 5 feet 7 inches with a slim, slightly athletic build. Today she intended to present a new version of herself, to smile convincingly and to begin afresh. Resolute, she left the privacy of her bedroom, descended to the kitchen, and found her aunt standing at the refrigerator. Jenna, at 29, had a fair complexion, hazel eyes, and medium-length blonde hair. She was about 5 feet 6 inches with a slender, active frame. I can make toast, Jenna offered. It's all about the coffee, Aunt Jenna, Elena replied. Is there coffee? Asked a new voice. This belonged to Jeremy Gilbert, Elena's younger brother, a tall, lean 15-year-old with short, spiky brown hair and alert eyes. First day of school and I am entirely unprepared, Jenna sighed, closing the refrigerator. Lunch money? She asked, turning to her niece and nephew. Not long after, Elena rode in the passenger seat of her friend Bonnie Bennett's car, a modest blue hybrid. Bonnie, also 17, was petite with olive green eyes and a heart-shaped face. She spoke with easy, vibrant confidence. So Grams insists I'm psychic, ancestors from Salem, witches, the whole backstory. I know it sounds wild, but she won't stop. Still, I predicted a few strange things and... Bonnie trailed off when she noticed Elena lost in thought. Elena. Back in the car. I'm sorry, I drifted, Elena apologized. Okay, then predict something about me, Bonnie teased. Before Bonnie could respond, a bird struck the windshield, startling them both and prompting Bonnie to brake sharply. They sat in silence for a moment, shaken but unharmed. It came out of nowhere, Bonnie said. I'm fine, Elena replied, taking a deep breath. Bonnie grinned. I predict this year is going to be wonderful. I think the harder times are behind you, you'll be happier than you can imagine. In the school halls later, Bonnie remarked on the lack of eligible suitors in a jocular way that made Elena smile. They continued toward Elena's locker. A tall boy, Matt Donovan, passed by. He raised a hand in greeting but did not stop. Elena felt deflated, and Bonnie offered a lively explanation for his behavior. Before they could continue, Caroline Forbes, another classmate, bounded up with effusive cheer and enveloped Elena in a warm hug. Caroline, 17, had a fair complexion, blue-green eyes, and medium-length blonde hair she styled in a variety of ways. Elena, it's so good to see you. How are you? Really? Caroline asked, concern and affection evident. I'm much better, Elena assured her. Outside, Jeremy lingered by the courtyard where students gathered between classes. Nearby stood Vicky Donovan, Matt's older sister, and Tyler Lockwood, a local teenager known for his intensity. Their interactions were typical adolescent banter. Tyler teased in a way intended to impress rather than to harm, and the group's dynamics reflected ordinary high school tensions rather than anything dangerous. Back inside, Elena and Bonnie continued down the corridor, exchanging observations about the people they passed and laughing at the small, familiar absurdities of their world. What she saw were two young men, one dressed in blue jeans and a black leather jacket with a soft cotton hood, and the other wearing black jeans paired with a dark orange hoodie. Inside the office, two girls observed quietly while a secretary reviewed the documents presented by the two visitors. Your records are incomplete, the woman said politely. We're missing your immunization information, and we still require your academic transcripts. Please take another look, one of the teens replied calmly, maintaining eye contact. I'm sure everything you need is right there. After a brief moment, the secretary blinked and smiled faintly. Well, you're right. Everything seems to be in order after all. Both teens exchanged a knowing smile before leaving the office. Outside, the two girls continued watching them. I'm getting a Seattle vibe from the one in the jacket, he's definitely into music, maybe the guitar, Bonnie said thoughtfully. And the other one? Feels more like Los Angeles, maybe a vocalist. You're really going to keep up with this whole psychic thing, huh? Elena teased. Pretty much, Bonnie replied with a grin. Hey, good batch, man. A voice called out from the hall, catching Elena's attention. She turned just in time to see her younger brother heading toward the restroom. "I'll be right back," Elena said, moving off determinedly. "Please let him be cute," Bonnie murmured to herself, still looking into the office. Without hesitation, Elena entered the restroom. Her sudden appearance surprised those inside, but she ignored them. Her focus was entirely on her brother, who was using eye drops. She stepped up, gently took his face in her hands, and looked straight into his eyes. "Great. First day of school, and you're already tired," Elena said with concern. "I'm fine," Jeremy replied quickly. "Really? You've been acting strange lately," she said, checking his pockets for anything suspicious. "Stop, okay? Relax," he said, trying to calm her down. "Relax? You think I don't notice?" Elena said firmly. "I gave you some space over the summer, but I'm not going to watch you lose focus again. You're better than this, Jeremy. Don't forget who you are." Jeremy sighed. "Look, I don't need this talk right now," he said before leaving the restroom. Back in the hallway, the two teens from earlier exited the office at last, allowing Bonnie a clear view of them. The first one had fair skin, sharp features, and striking forest green eyes that hinted at quiet confidence. His short, dark blonde hair was neatly spiked, and his calm smile gave him a friendly, easygoing charm. Beside him stood another teen, taller, with bright golden blonde hair that was untamed but full of character. His most distinguishing feature was the trio of whisker-like markings on each cheek, giving him a lively and unique look. But what truly stood out were his brilliant blue eyes, clear and bright like the morning sky. As they walked down the hallway, several students turned their heads, curious. Bonnie found herself following them almost without realizing it, captivated by their energy. At that same moment, Elena stepped out of the restroom, and accidentally bumped into one of them. For a moment, their eyes met, and time seemed to pause. Isn't this the men's restroom?" the teen asked politely. "Yes, I was just." "It's a long story," Elena stammered, unable to look away. They both tried to move aside, only to step in the same direction twice, laughing softly at the awkwardness. Finally, the blonde teen smiled and gestured for her to pass. "Thank you," she said, returning the smile before walking away, her heart fluttering slightly. She glanced back once more, and caught him looking back too, before they both turned away. "You totally did that on purpose, didn't you, Stefan?" said the other teen, the blonde with the bright blue eyes, Naruko. "I don't know what you're talking about," Stefan replied with a small grin. "Sure you don't," Naruko said playfully. "But now that you've met her, maybe you can stop keeping such a close watch on her." "I wasn't watching her," Stefan said lightly, shaking his head. "Well, whatever you were doing, and whatever you plan to do next, don't forget you still owe me a 10-second car for dragging me here. Also, I seriously need to get you on a proper diet. How you've managed to survive on your current eating habits is nothing short of pure luck," remarked the whisker-marked blonde, her tone a mix of humor and exasperation. Not long after, Elena found herself seated in her first class of the day, history. Her teacher, Mr. William Tanner, was quite young, though despite his age and appearance, he wasn't particularly popular due to his rather stern attitude. At that moment, he was in the middle of one of his long-winded lectures. When our home state of Virginia joined the Confederacy in 1861, it caused considerable division within the region. The northwest part of Virginia held ideals quite different from those of the traditional South. In 1863, that region separated, forming what became West Virginia. As the lecture continued, Elena turned her head slightly to glance behind her. There sat the boy she had bumped into earlier, one seat back and 2 rows to the right, just within her line of sight. Their eyes met briefly. Elena smiled shyly before quickly turning away. Matt noticed this small exchange, and his reaction didn't escape Bonnie's attention either. With a playful grin, Bonnie texted Elena under the desk. Meanwhile, Naruko, sitting directly behind Elena, found the entire scene quietly amusing. Several hours later, Naruko stood outside a modest home painted a warm shade of dark brown. After ringing the doorbell, she waited only a moment before the door opened to reveal a woman in her late 60s with cocoa brown skin, kind almond-shaped eyes, and long curly hair. This was Sheila Bennett, Bonnie's grandmother. "Hello, Sheila. It's been a while," greeted Naruko warmly. Without hesitation, Sheila stepped aside, allowing her inside. Soon after, Naruko sat comfortably on the couch, a cup of tea in her hands. They spoke casually for a few minutes until the conversation took a more thoughtful turn. "I saw Bonnie today," Naruko said softly. I can hardly believe she's the same little one I used to hold in my lap. It's been almost 12 years since you last saw her, Sheila replied gently. Has it really been that long? It feels like only yesterday I returned to the spirit realm. How is her training progressing? I haven't started her formal lessons yet, but I plan to begin soon, Sheila admitted. Naruko tilted her head slightly. That's surprising, considering how much natural energy she carries. Sheila sighed. Her father was hesitant. I hope Abby had her say in the matter, Naruko remarked, raising a brow. She tried, but she became involved with the supernatural community and left Bonnie in my care. I haven't seen or heard from her in years. Naruko frowned, though she kept her composure. Family is precious, she said softly but firmly. That's one thing I've always tried to teach. Sheila nodded silently. Without another word, Naruko drew a small scroll from her sleeve. With a gentle hand gesture, a soft shimmer of light surrounded the parchment before it opened. After writing a short message, she performed another series of graceful hand signs. In a swirl of golden mist, a small twin-tailed fox with shimmering fur appeared and leapt joyfully into her lap. Hello, sweetheart. Have you been a good girl for Mommy Yuzu? Naruko asked with a bright smile. Yes. Squeaked the little fox, her voice high and cheerful. Sheila smiled fondly. Having known Naruko since childhood, she was long familiar with her spiritual companions and found nothing strange about the sight. Please deliver this message to your mother for me, Naruko said kindly to the small creature. I'll call you back for dinner tonight. Sheila chuckled softly, though she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Abby. She knew Hinata, Naruko's closest companion, was gentle and compassionate but also incredibly protective. If someone disappointed her, they would certainly hear about it. Later that evening, Elena sat quietly in the town cemetery before a gravestone that read Grayson Gilbert and Miranda Summers Gilbert, her parents. With a pen in hand, she wrote carefully in a leather-bound journal that her mother had given her. Dear Diary. I made it through the day. I must have said I'm fine, thanks about 37 times, and I didn't mean it once. But no one noticed. When people ask, how are you? They don't really want the truth. As she paused to think, she noticed a crow perched on her parents' gravestone, its glossy feathers glinting in the fading light. Oh, hi there, little bird. That's not creepy at all, she muttered with a nervous laugh. A gentle fog began to drift across the cemetery, thick and unexpected. Feeling uneasy, Elena stood and waved the bird away. But when she turned, she saw it again, now perched atop another grave statue, watching her. Deciding she had seen enough, she grabbed her bag and started walking briskly away. She paused once to glance back and thought she saw a faint silhouette near a distant tomb. Heart racing, she turned and hurried down the hill, only to trip and tumble onto the grass. Before she could stand again, a calm voice spoke nearby. Are you all right? Elena looked up to see a young man with pale skin and gentle green eyes. Stefan. Were you following me? She asked, catching her breath. No, I just saw you fall, he replied politely. Oh. Okay. It's just kind of strange to be hanging out in a cemetery. I was visiting, Stefan explained softly. I have family here. Oh. I'm sorry, that was rude of me, Elena said, embarrassed. It's just the fog, it's making me a little jumpy. And that bird earlier. It felt like something out of an old movie. You know, The Birds, by Hitchcock? I'm Stefan, he said, smiling. I know. We have history together. And English, and French, Stefan added. Elena smiled. Right. He stepped closer, gently reaching out to remove a leaf from her hair. As she looked down, she noticed a ring on his hand. Nice ring, she said softly, her curiosity piqued. Raising the ring for a closer look, she noticed it was a large, silver piece set with a striking lapis lazuli stone. Engraved upon the gem was the Salvatore family crest, marked with the letter S, representing the first letter of either his first or last name. Oh. It's a family ring. I'm kind of stuck with it. Strange, isn't it? Stefan said with a small smile. No, not at all, it's just some rings stand out more than others, Elena replied, studying the elegant design. Did you hurt yourself? Stefan asked after a brief silence. Oh, I'm not sure, she said softly, adjusting her posture. She rested her leg on a nearby rock and rolled up her pants slightly, revealing a long scratch across her leg. She was so focused on examining it that she didn't notice Stefan subtly turn away, his expression momentarily tense. You should probably have that looked at, Stefan suggested, his tone deepening slightly. It's really nothing, Elena said as she pulled her pants leg back down. When she looked up again, Stefan was gone. That evening, within his room at the Salvatore boarding house, Stefan sat at his desk, writing in his journal. I lost control today. Everything I've kept buried within surfaced again. I find it harder than ever to resist her presence. Pausing, he looked up and saw Naruko entering the room, carrying 2 mugs of warm tea. Meanwhile, at a local spot called the Mystic Grill, Jeremy approached Vicky, only for her to walk past him briskly. He watched as she carried a tray of food over to a nearby table where Matt and Tyler were seated. Thanks, Vic, said Matt, giving his sister a quick side hug. Would you like another drink? Vicky asked Tyler politely. I'd appreciate that, Tyler replied as she headed back toward the counter. Please tell me you're not interested in my sister, Matt said, narrowing his eyes slightly. All right, I'm not interested in your sister, Tyler said, smirking lightly. You're impossible, Matt muttered, shaking his head. At another table, Caroline and Bonnie were chatting while waiting for Elena to arrive. Caroline was in the middle of an enthusiastic update. His name is Stefan Salvatore. He lives with his uncle at the old Salvatore boarding house. He hasn't been here since childhood. They moved around a lot, his family had a military background. He's a Gemini, and his favorite color is blue. His adoptive sister, Naruko, is a Libra. Her favorite color is orange, and those unique markings on her cheeks are birthmarks. Bonnie blinked, impressed. You learned all that in one day? Oh, please. I found out all that between 3rd and 4th period, Caroline said proudly. I'm already planning a June wedding. Bonnie raised an amused eyebrow. With which one? Caroline grinned. Haven't decided yet. At home, Elena was getting ready to meet her friends. She walked through the hallway in a simple black dress, passing her aunt. Have fun, but don't stay out too late, it's still a school night, Aunt Jenna called after her. Elena chuckled softly. Got it, Aunt Jenna. As she opened the front door, she found Stefan standing on the porch, hand raised mid-knock. Sorry, he said quickly. I was about to knock. I wanted to apologize for disappearing earlier, it must have seemed strange. It's all right, I understand, Elena replied kindly. You just seemed uncomfortable. Something like that, Stefan said with a faint smile. How's your leg? It's fine now, just a small scratch. How did you know where I live? It's a small town, he answered. I asked someone for directions. Oh, and I thought you might want this back. He handed her a bound book she instantly recognized as her diary. Elsewhere in the grill, Matt and Bonnie sat together. How's Elena doing? Matt asked quietly. She's managing, Bonnie said gently. It's only been a few months, and she's doing her best. Has she said anything about me? He asked hesitantly. Bonnie smiled knowingly. I'm staying out of that. You should call her yourself. She broke up with me. It feels awkward, Matt admitted. Give it some time, Matt, Bonnie replied. Matt nodded slowly, then looked up and saw Elena walking in with Stefan. Across the room, Naruko was seated at the bar, mid-bite into a chicken wing. She noticed Matt rise from his seat and approach Stefan and Elena. Her sharp blue eyes caught the subtle glances exchanged around the room. Caroline and Tyler had turned their attention too. Naruko leaned back, curious. Her instincts as a trained shinobi made her observant, though she had no plans to intervene. She simply found the unfolding interactions interesting. Hi, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you, said the boy, offering a polite smile. I'm Stefan, he replied courteously. Naruko smiled faintly, appreciating Matt's maturity. She could tell he was trying to be respectful despite his past with Elena. For a moment, she admired the kind of calm confidence. It reminded her of her own growth through the years. As the evening continued, the group gathered at a nearby table. So, you were born here in Mystic Falls? Caroline asked Stefan curiously. Yes, he replied. But I moved away when I was young. Do you have any family? Bonnie inquired softly. My parents passed some time ago, he said gently. I'm sorry, Elena said quickly, changing the subject. Any siblings? Just one, my adoptive sister, Naruko, Stefan replied. Caroline's eyes brightened with curiosity. Oh. I heard about her. How did that happen? Stefan smiled warmly. It's a long story, but she's family in every way that matters. Naruko, from her seat across the room, simply smiled, unaware that her name had become part of the conversation. Raising an eyebrow at the question, Stefan took a measured sip from his glass to buy a moment, then glanced toward the bar where Naruko nodded in encouragement. My mother found her when she was 5. She was discovered in the back seat of a car that had been forced off the road. Her parents were in the front. Since she had no other relatives, and to avoid placing her in institutional care, my mother chose to welcome her into our home, Stefan explained. Since you're new here, I suppose you don't know about the gathering tomorrow, Caroline said, deliberately steering the conversation away from the accident. It's a back-to-school event at the falls, Bonnie added. Do you think you can attend? Elena asked. Of course we can, Naruko replied, making her presence known. I'm sorry, ladies, but my brother and I must leave, Naruko said. Aw, but you just arrived, Caroline protested, prompting Naruko to smile. Caroline's expression reminded her of Ino. I was actually here earlier, I've been at the bar. Regardless, there's an urgent matter and we don't have much choice, Naruko replied, meeting Stefan's eyes. He rose and put on his coat. About 30 minutes later, the two siblings were in Stefan's room, Naruko leaning toward the laptop screen. The image displayed a dark blue 2003 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution in factory condition. Nice find, where did this come from? Naruko asked. Lexi located it and made the owner an offer he couldn't refuse, Stefan said. Lexi is one of my favorites. Is she delivering it herself? Naruko inquired. She's having it shipped. She won't be passing through here for a few months. The car should arrive next week, Stefan replied. Their conversation was interrupted when another relative entered. His name was Zach, a distant nephew. The family's complex history included relationships that had left the Salvatore name sustained through subsequent generations. He handed Stefan a newspaper as he approached. You promised, Zach said. This was an animal incident, Stefan replied, passing the paper to Naruko. Don't try to sell that to me. I know how this goes. When things are arranged to look like an animal incident, people often accept the explanation, Zach countered. Stefan's choices are different from most, his needs and preferences are unconventional, Naruko observed calmly. Who could possibly be responsible, then? The circumstances are all wrong, Zach protested. Stefan agreed. Naruko, for her part, did not require the same sustenance as ordinary people, she had adapted in other ways. Over time she had trained her senses extensively, a discipline she began after becoming a kitsune. She sometimes consulted Kurama for guidance, but her sensory training had been the foundation. Closing her eyes to concentrate, she extended her awareness outward. It took her only moments to locate what she was searching for, and she frowned when she opened her eyes. Zach, prepare to leave town for a while, Naruko said, catching both men off guard. Uncle Naruko, I can't just go, Zach protested. You can, and you will. A management position has opened in Florence and your temporary application was accepted. You will depart in the morning, a charter plane will meet you at the airport. Once you arrive, someone will be there to receive you. You will be hosted by my sister Yugito and her bacon echo. While there you will focus on your new role and on building a life of your own. You will be under their care, and those regions are known to be protected from the disturbances we experience here, Naruko said in a measured tone. The mention of Damon caused Stefan's expression to darken. It's sensible, Zach. Whenever Damon visits, someone in our family experiences misfortune. You're the last in line to carry the Salvatore name forward, Stefan added. Zach sighed. I suppose all those years of learning Italian may finally be useful, he conceded. There will be a plane waiting for you in the morning, Naruko repeated. When you reach the villa, several cars will be available, some classic muscle cars among them. Do not touch the Daytona or the 70 Chevelle, the other vehicles are yours to use responsibly. Zach nodded and went to pack, the urgency of departure settling into the room as the siblings prepared for what lay ahead. The following morning, Naruko and Stefan found themselves once again seated in history class. Earlier that day, they had bid farewell to Zach, who left with a single suitcase. Naruko had assured him that all arrangements were already in place and that a welcome package would await him at the villa. Now, both sat listening to their teacher's lecture, half attentive, as they already knew much of the story firsthand. The Battle of Willow Creek occurred near the end of the Great War, right here in Mystic Falls. Can anyone tell me how many people were affected by this battle? Ms. Bennett? A lot. I'm not sure, just a lot, Bonnie replied hesitantly. Cute becomes clueless in a second, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Donovan? Care to surprise us and rise above your athlete stereotype? Asked Mr. Tanner dryly. It's all right, Mr. Tanner. I'm good, Matt replied with a grin, prompting a few chuckles. Elena, said Mr. Tanner expectantly. Surely you know something about one of Mystic Falls' most important historical events? I'm sorry. I don't, Elena admitted softly. I was lenient last year for understandable reasons, Elena, the teacher said, his tone firming. But personal excuses no longer apply this semester. There were 346 soldiers involved, Stefan spoke up unexpectedly. Unless you're also counting local citizens. That's correct, Mr. Salvatore, Stefan replied. Salvatore, any relation to the town's founding families? Distant, Stefan said evenly. Well, very good, Mr. Tanner continued, except there were no civilian losses recorded in that battle. Actually, sir, Naruko interjected politely, there were 27 townspeople caught in the conflict. Historical archives show that some soldiers mistakenly targeted a church, believing it held supplies. It was a night remembered with great sorrow. The founders' records in City Hall still preserve those details, should you wish to confirm them. The teacher blinked, mildly impressed. And you are? Naruko Salvatore, she replied with a courteous smile. Naruko. That's a Japanese name, isn't it? I believe it translates to fish cake, Mr. Tanner said, half amused. Naruko grinned. That's one version, yes, but written differently, it means maelstrom. That's the meaning my name carries. That evening, the back-to-school celebration was in full swing. Naruko and Stefan made their entrance together, Stefan in his usual dark attire, and Naruko in a stylish black leather jacket over a bright orange top, perfectly blending boldness with elegance. Stefan's eyes were focused elsewhere when Naruko gently nudged his arm. Stop eavesdropping, she teased lightly. It's not polite, and where's the fun if you already know everything? Relax, Stefan, you've always been good at winning people over. Just enjoy the evening. Before he could respond, Caroline appeared with a cheerful wave. You made it, she said brightly. I told you we would, Naruko replied with a friendly smile. Come on, let's get some drinks, Caroline offered. Sounds great, Naruko said, looping her arm through Caroline's as they headed toward the refreshment table, laughter following them through the crowd. Elsewhere near the forest edge, Jeremy wandered with a cup in hand, lost in thought. He paused when he noticed a couple by a tree and turned away to give them privacy, until he heard a distressed voice say, Please, stop. Concern flickered across his face. He stepped forward cautiously. Hey, everything okay? He called out. The man turned, and Jeremy recognized Tyler with Vicky. Relief and irritation mixed in his expression. You really have a way of showing up at the wrong time, Gilbert, Tyler said, frowning. Just making sure everything's fine, Jeremy replied calmly. Go home, Tyler, Vicky said firmly. With an annoyed huff, Tyler walked away. I didn't need your help, Vicky said quietly once he was gone. Maybe not, Jeremy replied, but it looked like you could use some backup. He was just upset, Vicky muttered. We all get upset sometimes, Jeremy said gently. What matters is how we handle it. Vicky sighed but didn't respond, her expression softening slightly as she walked off into the woods. Later, as she wandered deeper among the trees, a gentle mist began to drift across the ground. She turned at the sound of rustling leaves. Jeremy? Is that you? She called. There was no reply, only silence and the whisper of the wind. Feeling uneasy, she started back toward the lights of the party. Meanwhile, Stefan found Elena sitting near the railing, her eyes distant. They spoke quietly for a few minutes before Stefan, sensing his emotions getting ahead of him, excused himself for a moment of composure. When he returned, Elena was gone, her attention drawn toward the woods after spotting Jeremy, clearly unsteady on his feet. Concerned, she followed, calling out to him. Moments later, worried voices echoed as a group hurried back to the main field. Someone had found Vicky, who had fainted. Jeremy and Matt quickly brought her to a nearby table, and the crowd gathered anxiously as they checked on her condition. From a distance, Naruko and Stefan exchanged a thoughtful look before quietly stepping away from the commotion, sensing that the evening had taken a strange turn. Back home, the two stood quietly in Stefan's room, neither speaking for a moment. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed through the air, and both turned to see a sleek black crow gliding through the room. Following its flight toward the open balcony, they spotted another figure standing there. The newcomer was tall, around 5 feet 9 inches, with a strong, well-built frame that suggested someone in their mid-20s. His skin had a light olive tone, complemented by dark brown hair that brushed just over his ears and striking blue eyes that seemed to hold a playful glint. "Damon," said Stefan, breaking the silence. "Hello, brothers," Damon replied with a faint smile. "A crow? Isn't that a bit dramatic?" Stefan asked with a raised eyebrow. "Wait until you see what I can do with the fog," Damon said smoothly as he stepped inside. "So, when did you get here?" Stefan asked. "I couldn't possibly miss your first day back at school. Your hair's different, looks good," Damon said with a grin. "It's been 15 years, Damon," Stefan replied evenly. "Thank goodness," Damon said with a laugh. "I couldn't handle another day of the 90s. That whole grunge look was never flattering. Remember, Stefan, always avoid trends. Television was better back then, though. Now everything feels too staged," said Naruko, joining the conversation with an amused tone. "True enough," Damon admitted with a shrug. "Why are you here, Damon?" Stefan asked, his patience wearing thin. "What, can't I visit my family?" Damon replied innocently, causing both to give him unimpressed looks. "Damon, you've always disliked small towns. You used to say they were boring and uneventful," Stefan reminded him. "I've managed to keep myself occupied," Damon answered lightly. "Your recent actions have drawn attention. You're being careless. You even left that young woman unattended tonight," Stefan said seriously. "That might become a problem for you," Damon replied with a teasing tone. Stefan sighed. "Why are you really here?" "I could ask you the same," Damon said thoughtfully. "But I can guess the answer in one word, Elena." Stefan's eyes narrowed slightly. "She's remarkable, you know," Damon continued. "She looks so much like Catherine. Tell me, does being near her make you feel more alive?" "That's enough, both of you," Naruko said firmly, her voice calm yet commanding. The two brothers fell silent immediately. "Damon, whatever your reasons for coming here, this is your home too," Naruko said evenly. "But no more unnecessary stunts, all right? We don't need to attract more attention. People are already becoming suspicious." Later, at the falls, the party had ended early due to an accident, and both the police and an ambulance had arrived. Vicky had been taken to the hospital with Matt by her side, while Jeremy and Elena remained nearby with a few others. Elena approached Jeremy, who was still holding a bottle despite the police presence. "Are you okay?" "I called Jenna, she's on her way," Elena said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. He shrugged her off without a word. "Jeremy, people aren't going to keep overlooking things forever," she said softly. "They've got their own problems. They've moved on, and maybe we should try to do the same." Jeremy frowned. "I've seen you at the cemetery, writing in your diary. Is that your way of moving on?" Elena sighed. "Mom and Dad would want us to keep living our lives, Jeremy. They'd want us to find peace." At the hospital, Matt sat beside his sister's bed, his thoughts racing. When Vicky's eyes fluttered open, relief washed over his face. "Vicky. Hey, it's all right. You're safe," he said, smiling reassuringly. "Matt," she whispered weakly. "Don't talk yet, okay? Just rest," he said softly. Meanwhile, Caroline sat in a cozy cafe, nursing a mild headache while Bonnie was in the restroom. Through the window, she noticed Damon watching her from outside. He smiled, and after a brief pause, she smiled back uncertainly. Elsewhere, Elena sat by her bedroom window, writing in her diary. "Dear Diary. I was wrong. I thought I could smile my way through things and pretend that everything was fine. I wanted to change who I was, to build a life without the sadness of the past. But it's not that simple. The hard memories stay with you, no matter how far you try to run. All we can really do is stay open to the good things when they come, because when they do, we need to let them in." Looking up from her diary, Elena saw Stefan walking toward her door. Closing her journal, she went downstairs. Unlike before, when he had stayed outside, this time, when she invited him in, he stepped through the doorway. Dear YouTube family. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more exciting content. Thank you for your constant support. Regards. Anime Octopus.